Stormzone is the reigning official Smogon tournament champion, and he's well known for his team building, which often features unconventional Pokemon or structures. In the past couple months, I have managed to queue into him a few times on ladder, and this is one of those games that I'd like to show you today. It's no secret that this is going to be a slow game because he's playing Hazard Stack, and I'm playing Stall. What he's trying to do is stack up hazards on me, and then use Weavile and Walking Wake in order to knock off my heavy duty boots, which I have on Heatran, Hydrapple, Blissey, Alomomola, and Corviknight. However, I can disrupt this plan in a few ways. One, I have 3 knockoff absorbers in Alomomola, Gliscor, and Corviknight. While Heatran, Hydrapple, and Blissey, they're very vulnerable to hazards because they take so much damage on every switch in. These guys, they don't really mind it so much after losing their item. So even if the heavy duty boots are knocked off on Alomomola or Corviknight, they're still fine because Corviknight is immune to spikes and Alomomola is regenerating 33% on every switch. Gliscor is immune to spikes and it is healing a lot every turn. So there's that problem. But what if these guys get low and then a knockoff lands on Heatran or Hydrapple or Blissey? Well, then Corviknight can actually just take the hazards off with D5. So it might seem that this is a very hard matchup for Stormzone. However, eventually this Walking Wake is going to do enough damage to get through this Alomomola, this Gliscor, and this Corviknight, depending on how he positions it. Therefore, I need to try to find a way to disrupt this plan and control what he is trying to do in the present moment at the same time. So, without further ado, let's get into the game. And because there's going to be a lot of downtime and not necessarily so many critical moments, I'm going to talk about something that I've noticed about our educational culture, specifically in circles of students. And I'd like to preface this by offering up 2 premises. The first is that our environments dictate how we feel and how we attribute value towards certain things. So this is an extreme example, but suppose you grew up and your entire family is chess players, and all the time you're hearing about chess, you're playing games with your relatives, you celebrate when somebody has a major tournament win, everyone in your family just loves chess, right? It's hard to imagine that you would not end up attributing a good amount of value to the activity of chess, right? So that's premise 1. Premise 2 is that in order to be successful in academics, you should probably develop a set of habits that allow you to learn efficiently. And what do I mean by that? Well, it means you understand everything that you need to the extent that you need to, in as little a time as possible. What I think that looks like is sleeping well, so your brain is functioning properly, eating well, exercising well, to take care of your body, reviewing things regularly, because it's been proven that helps retention, right? And asking for help when you need it. So with those 2 premises in mind, I'd like to get into my argument, which is that the way interactions between students are happening the environments that are cultivated by those interactions are not going to help somebody achieve in school. I think it's not necessarily that these environments negatively impact students in all regards, but in some regards, I think the impact is very pronounced. And I'll give you an example now. So, say for instance, have you ever heard, as a student, an interaction that went something like this? Oh, I slept for 5 hours last night. I slept for 4 hours. Damn, that's crazy. Like, that kind of thing, right? And it's not that I'm saying you shouldn't be sympathetic to somebody if they've had shitty sleep. But I think that the way these interactions happen, without an emphasis on sleeping well and sort of reprimanding the other person for not sleeping well, and also those who sleep well are not as vocal about it as people who don't sleep well, I think all of that culminates into a situation where people are just telling each other about how they're sleeping shit all the time. And so, you know, premise one, the value of sleeping well decreases significantly, and it almost becomes an expectation that you should sleep poorly, because, well, everyone's sleeping poorly, right? Anyway, I'd like to press pause on that for a moment and talk about what's happening inside the game. As you may have noticed, I have Terra steeled Gliscor, and this changes some interactions. I noticed that Walking Wake was just gonna blow through my entire team if I did not make it so one of my knockoff absorbers could consistently handle it. Terra Steel Gliscor was the closest thing I could get, because this allows me to resist its Draco Meteor, and if I'm fairly healthy, I can take 2 Scalds, Toxic the Walking Wake, and severely limit how much damage it can do to my team before it dies. In order to support this strategy, I need to keep spikes off. However, this is not a problem, because every time Gliscor tries to spike, Corviknight can come in, forcing Gliscor to burn 2 spike PP. I can then defog for 1 defog PP, because I have 24 defog PP and he has an effective 16 spike PP. I should be able to drain away all his spikes and allow my Gliscor to sit in front of his team indefinitely. However, obviously this is not completely free. What Storm Zone can do is threaten the spike and double out into Walking Wake, because this sets Walking Wake up in a great position against Corviknight. Depending on whether he clicks Scald or Meteor, I have to switch into Alomomola, Blissey, or Gliscor, and if he gets the turns right, Gliscor is going to get chipped, and then it won't be able to switch in, which means there's less pressure on Walking Wake to mix up its moves, and it can start knocking off important targets like Blissey, Hydrapple, Heatran, whatever. They can just start blowing me away. I'm slowly interpreting this situation as it happens. Another storyline that might be of some interest is that Gliscor is actually very close to winning this game, because if it stays very healthy, there's not much on Storm Zone's team that can force it out. If Walking Wake tries to do it while it's healthy, it's going to take a Toxic, and of course, we've gone through why that would be bad for him. Gliscor can force out my Gliscor now that it's Terra Steel, but if Gliscor tries to Earthquake, the same problem with Corviknight presents itself, where 16 Earthquake PP is an effective 8. And every time he Earthquakes and it lands into Corviknight, well, that's making my Gliscor stronger and stronger, right? So there's a lot of pressure on Storm Zone to make something happen. And so we can resume, and I'm going to keep talking about or educational environments. So we talked about how sleep is negatively impacted by this culture, or how well students are sleeping is negatively impacted. And I think this is also the case for reviewing shit, right? Because I feel that the most vocal students, again, are always talking about how much homework sucks, right? And I think that kind of, it makes it easier to think that it does suck for the vast majority of students. And it's almost as if, how do I say this? It makes it harder to appreciate what the homework is actually doing for you. Because this culture of thinking, oh, homework is just a hassle, it's just so annoying, like it's boring. I suppose part of it is on the institution, but part of it is also on the student, because it transforms homework into an obstacle rather than something to be appreciated for its utility. And with that, I'm going to return to the game. So, as we discussed, Storm Zone has this resource. If he plays predictably with Gliscor against my Corviknight, he's going to run out of PP. However, if he doubles from Gliscor into Walking Wake, he can catch me off and start chipping my mons. And I realized that at about this point in the game. And as far as I remember, Storm Zone, this is the first time he had the chance to make the play. So what's going to happen is he flip turns because Scald does not kill, and of course he doesn't want this Walking Wake to get knocked or poisoned. So I'll knock once here. And I'm thinking, surely, given all of those Corviknight interactions, all of that, and this Earthquake spikes Toxic Gliscor, he can't stay in and attack me. He's not going to do that. And even if he does, I will have a chance to recover up my Gliscor. So I am going to knock off into the anticipated Walking Wake double. And as you'll be able to see, this actually works. So now, Storm Zone's biggest resource against me is now gone. And he still has to deal with the issue of Gliscor burning PP against Corviknight. He still has to deal with the issue of the Earthquake PP running low. And worst of all, his Wake is on a timer. So if I set a layer of spikes or a Stealth Rock, every time it comes in, it's going to take chip. And because he has no way of healing, it's definitely not going to be very easy for him. Well, actually, no. In fact, I would say it is impossible for him to win from this point forward. And so really the rest of this game is kind of a formality, and I'll talk about the game as if I've won on this turn. I was very proud of this game because I, as a player, have always struggled with interpreting situations. And in this case, I feel that I gained a good understanding of what was happening in the game, and I managed to convert it into a win against a very strong player. Even if the play, maybe it was a little impatient, but I think given everything that was going on given all the interactions between the Mons, I think this double had to happen at some point, and it was absolutely correct for me to knock off into it. Also, please don't take this as if I'm better than Storm Zone. I am not better than Storm Zone. This guy beat my ass like 5 times for every time I beat him twice. And most of the time, he's testing some crazy shit on ladder. And it's like the coolest build you'll ever see. But at the same time, sometimes it's a little whack, you know? it is what it is. So, yeah, I hope you'll appreciate this game, not for what it's not, but for what for what it is, if that makes any sense. And I suppose as I let the game run, I will conclude with my talks about educational environments. So I think it's kind of clear how these kind of interactions negatively impact homework and negatively impact sleep. So I think what I would do is implore you, if you are a student, to avoid this kind of mentality and try to believe what will help you the most. Because for a lot of experiences, ultimately, there's some objective truth to whatever is happening, and the rest of it is in the mind. Homework is just homework, and it's your choice to interpret it as an opportunity to become more adept, or as just pointless dribble. And I think that it would be really great for everyone involved if we could shift our perceptions a little bit and build social spaces as students that are better for us in the long term. And with that, I'll thank you guys for watching, and I will just let the rest of this battle play in hyperfast. I hope you have a good day.